Rookies have all reported now to 49ers camp. Second round pick Alfred Collins signed. More on why it's so important for Collins especially to be in camp and what rookie camp even means before veterans report next week on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Coach Crocky. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love and appreciate all of our everydayers out there. Thanks for hanging with us. We're getting ready for 2025. Before long, we're going to actually see these guys on the field, and it's an important year, a big year, especially important for the rookies who are now all in camp. Some of them not able to practice, though, due to injury. So more on that. Hit us up at BD Peacock, at Coach Crocky. YouTube comment, subscribe while you're there. Tell a friend about Locked On 49ers. And now we're starting to see a whole bunch of second-round picks signing, and I think the 49ers and Alfred Collins coming together with the 43rd pick really helped the rest of the league start to figure out what they're doing, because for most of the offseason, it was only the first two second-round picks. Browns, Carson Schlesinger was the pick 33. Pick 34 was Jaden Higgins of the Houston Texans. And then no other second-round pick had signed until late Wednesday when Alfred Collins, the 43rd pick in the draft for the 49ers, had finally signed his deal. We'll talk about some of the specifics there of the money. And now we're seeing a few more now today. Jack Best just signed. The Seattle Seahawks, Nick Emanwari signed. And the first time ever that the 35th pick in the draft, Croc, has gotten fully guaranteed money. So that's kind of what was holding up the works, because the first two players that signed in the second round got fully guaranteed contracts. And that hadn't really happened before for second rounders. Did happen for first rounders. And now we're starting to see it happen for second rounders. The Seahawks said, hey, Nick Emanwari, we had a first round grade, so we feel okay about giving him, the same benefits that a first round pick would get. So he's going to get his fully guaranteed deal for.
You can't do that. Like these teams can't do stuff like that. You can't go rogue and do your own thing. We saw this with the Cleveland Browns. Luckily, it didn't catch on, but they went and gave Deshaun Watson a fully guaranteed contract, $230 million or whatever the hell it was. The NFL said, heck no, the rest of us ain't doing that. But when one team does it, it could lead to trouble down the line. Luckily, that part did catch on, but it seems like this is something that is catching on. Second round pick guys kind of holding out until they get that guaranteed money.
And it's not big money. They're quibbling over a little bit, but it's funny that teams wanted to hold firm. And it's, if you're the 35th pick and the guy picked 34th, got the fully guaranteed, then you're like, okay, I want the guaranteed too. And you're not going to sign a deal until you get it. And it just held up the entire second round. But we're starting to see some dominoes fall now for Alfred Collins. He didn't get the fully guaranteed deal, but he did get $9 million reportedly guaranteed of his $10.3 million contract, which is way up from last year's 43rd pick. I think got 6.75, a little less than 7 million guaranteed. So clearly guys getting more of their contracts guaranteed this year than last year in the second round. And it was nice to see the 49ers and Alfred Collins be able to come together on something without all the picks in front of him getting signed, because of all the rookies, I think right now it's most important to get Alfred Collins on the field, Croc, because he hasn't been on the field yet as a San Francisco 49er. Dealing with the calf injury. He was dealing with injury during the draft process. Didn't really work out a lot pre-draft. The couple of things that he did work out at were not good. So I don't know if he was hurt, and that's the reason he only had a 26-inch vertical or an 8-foot broad jump. But he didn't do anything else pre-draft, whether it was the combine or his pro day, and then was still banged up through OTAs and mandatory mini camp. So Alfred Collins hasn't had a chance to do anything with the 49ers. And for a guy who's 6'5.5", 332 pounds, that's one of those where you hope they don't show up to camp the 350 pounds, because it's a lot easier for those big guys to add weight. And he is a huge dude. And obviously for a bigger guy, conditioning is going to be a big part of it. And you also don't want a guy to come in and then not sign and then try to play catch up. And then you have another soft tissue injury. And now you have a torn calf that keeps you out for months too. So it's pretty important to get the 49ers second round pick in Alfred Collins in, get him acclimated, and starts the conditioning process so he can actually practice with the rest of his veteran teammates when they show up next week.
I want to know the numbers on players that have maybe like a like an OTA injury, maybe a soft tissue injury, and then the number on the amount of those guys that have reoccurring injuries throughout the season or at some point during the season with maybe another soft tissue injury. Because if I had to guess, it'd be kind of fairly high, especially for the bigger guys. Smaller guys, not a whole lot moving there. They may be able to get away with it. You're 330 pounds, maybe balloon up to about 345, and you've been kind of sitting out. Seems like injuries are more likely to happen at that point for a guy of his stature.
He's a player we haven't talked a lot about either with Alfred Collins. So I want to revisit him a little bit. And since rookies have reported now to camp, and all rookies are now in and reported, Kurtis Rourke not going to be able to practice yet. He's going, according to Matt Barrow, is going to be put on the NFI list, which is not shocking. Still recovering from his ACL surgery after the season last year. He was in the college football tournament at Indiana. Kurtis Rourke was, and then waited until after the season. He was playing on a torn ACL throughout the season. And then I think it was pretty early in the season when he tore it too. So phenomenal toughness there, then got it surgically repaired in the offseason. And so, he might end up having a redshirt year. We'll see how long it takes. NFI list, non-football injury is what they call it. It was a football injury, but he didn't get injured as a San Francisco 49er. So he goes on the NFI list to start his career, Kurtis Rourke. Everybody else, though, reported to rookie camp for the 49ers. And now a couple days late, maybe, Alfred Collins is able to join his teammates there. And hopefully he's over the calf injury and is able to start working out and start conditioning and getting ready for some real practices. But I mean, just a big guy, 35-inch arms. I was looking at his stats again to remind myself, because I knew he didn't have a lot of sack production. He never had more than 2 sacks in a season. He was kind of a role player and rotated in only one full season as a starter, started all 6 games in his 5th season, his last year as a senior at Texas. But I mean, it's hard to fault a guy for not starting ahead of other 1st and 2nd round picks like Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat were the guys ahead of him in 2023. So it's not that he wasn't good enough to start. It was just that there was a lot of dudes at Texas and he had to bide his time. But he still, as a full-time starter in 16 games, only had 1 sack last year. And the year before had 2 sacks among 6 starts. And so he's never had more than 2 sacks in the season, had 1 sack, and never had more than 5.5 tackles for loss. So when you see one of those highlight reels of Alfred Collins and it's like him getting a sack, a couple tackles for loss, and you see these plays, that's it. Like, that's the statistical production from him when you see one of those senior year highlight tapes. And it doesn't mean he's not going to have more statistical production in the NFL, but I think the 49ers are banking that there will be a lot more in the NFL. And he does have one move, Croc, that I love. Well, 2 moves that I love. One is that he had 7 passes defensed last year. So he's almost 6'6" with 35-inch arms. It's like he's sticking field goal posts up in the air in front of quarterbacks to bat the ball down. So I do like that. If you're not getting home, you're not getting to the quarterback, get your arms up there and affect the play. 7 passes defense. And the other thing I love is what I affectionately call the frog splash that I saw on tape. And we talked a little bit about this when we did our tape dive after he was drafted. And he's so big and long, and he doesn't have incredible range, but when he ends the play, just by him leaning over, he's so long, and he's got this like splash and this extension that he does, and it reminds me of a frog splash. And he's these long arms, and he's able to finish some tackles and finish some plays. Only 2 missed tackles last year in his 55 tackles. So that is Alfred Collins. I think there's a lot of similarities to Javon Kinlaw, both good and bad. There's some highlight plays, some wow plays with his hands and how strong he is. Then there's times where his height works against him, and it'll be interesting to see where the 49ers play him. It sounds like they're going to try him out as sort of a 3 technique, which is a position that needs to show a little rush and get upfield.
I was on KMBR earlier with Larry Kruger, and one of the things I talked about when it came to Alfred Collins was just be who they drafted you to be, which is a run stuffer. So I get it. It's exciting to see the 1 sack highlight that he had, and everybody's going to pay attention to the sack numbers, and they may judge his rookie season based on that. But for me, it's all about how he does against the run. Just be that guy. We're expecting you to help really changed how the 49ers run defense looks. And if you do that, I think it's a very successful pick.
No doubt. Let's talk a little bit more about 49ers camp, rookies all in tow, and a potential Jauan Jennings hold in and what that would look like, and maybe some opportunities that could be created at the wide receiver position with no Brandon Ayuk, no Jauan Jennings potentially on the practice field. And some insight from Croc. What is it like? What happens this first week of camp next? Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth, and not only your own accounts, your own personal accounts, but how about shared accounts? If you are managing accounts with your partner and you want things to be simple and easy without the stress, Monarch Money can help with that. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. So the calf with Alfred Collins, Kurtis Rourke's not going to be practicing. He's recovering from his ACL injury. There was the broken thumb for Nick Martin. He was playing through it in the spring, so I would imagine he would still be able to play through that once training camp gets going. And then Marcus Siegel is another one that had yet to be able to practice. And the reports in the springtime were that they are all going to be ready for camp. So hopefully that's the case. We don't have any insight yet on that. We're going to probably have to wait until Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch speak, which they are next scheduled to speak, I think maybe next Tuesday or Wednesday after the veterans report to camp. And we'll probably get a lot more insight on all the rookies and how everyone's looking there. And then obviously when there's some open practices and get fans there and get reporters in, really getting eyes on these guys and what everything looks like. Croc, can you tell us what it's like? Like, well, what's the first day of training camp, right? Because you report, you don't do anything that day. Then the next day is the first day of practice, but that's after veterans report. What's like the first day of rookie camp? Is it just straight conditioning? Is it more just learning what you have to do so you don't screw it up when the veterans get there?
So it's actually not rookie camp. Well, I guess it is very similar to rookie minicamp. So rookie minicamp, that is right after the draft. You have a bunch of rookies from outside the organization show up, mixed in with the draft picks, and essentially do like a few day install. You have some legit practices, and then everybody disperses, and the guys that they kept, the draft picks, they stay there. The other guys, they may never play football ever again. When you report for training camp, it's a lot of the first and second year guys. And essentially you have, legit practices. You go over practice just like you would with all the veterans there, but it gives guys like Eric Crocker, who's very low on the roster, an opportunity to get more reps. Because once training camp starts, gosh, I mean, the veterans will get 6 reps. The backups will get 5 reps. And when I say backup, second string. The third string guys may get 3. I mean, and you go enough periods like that where 6 reps, 5 reps, 3 reps, maybe. You're not getting a whole lot, especially, let's say, as a cornerback. And those 3 plays that I may get, if they run to the left, maybe throw a screen to the left, and another run, well, that's it. I don't get any action. So they barely really kind of get to see that guy unless like an injury happens, or the one time I may get a pass thrown at me, I intercept the ball or something, and they're like, oh, let's maybe get this guy a little bit more reps or something. They might try to do that, but it's very difficult. So they have that time. It's, it's a few practices or so where you show up and you get to practice and you get a ton of reps. Now, I don't know if every organization does it different. I was a part of one organization that was the New York Jets. The 49ers may have guys come in. Maybe it's just more walkthrough type stuff. So it all depends, but nonetheless, it gives some of the younger guys more opportunity to get reps, more one-on-one time with all the coaches who are also there.
Love that. Beep drill. Did you do the beep drill in camp or whatever it was with the Jets where it's the conditioning test that you have to pass? And I know you've given that to your high school kids, and it's not always easy, right? What was your conditioning test, if you remember, with the Jets? And did you pass it?
Oh yeah, it was 110s. And I definitely passed it. Now, the way I passed it, and I try to get my kids to do it, I would work out every day, right? I work out 2-3 times a day. And my last workout was always like on field doing defensive back drill type workout for 45 minutes to an hour. And then after the workout, I would do the conditioning test. We knew what it was. So I knew I had to run the 110s, however many it was, maybe 20 at that time. And I would run that every day after my workout. So when we showed up, I did it easily. Just ran through it. I was good. There were other guys that were not as prepared. Joe McKnight, RIP Joe McKnight. Joe McKnight did not pass the conditioning test. We've seen it with the 49ers where guys show up and maybe an injury happens. Not saying he was in his shape, but Jimmy Ward, I remember him pulling a muscle like a hamstring 1 year during the conditioning test. Things like that tend to happen when maybe you're not in the best shape or you're exerting your body in a way that you haven't been doing. So I would suggest all guys, man, do the conditioning test throughout the offseason, and it's much easier when you show up for training camp.
And it's not just that you have to do 20 110-yard sprints. You have to do them in a certain time, right? And that's the beep drill is what I remember it being called, where it's just like when it beeps, you got to go again. And so you got to be ready to not only run that many, but you got to run them in a certain amount of time as well. And it's a test of preparation, right, Croc? More than anything. Like, because it's not like a surprise. It's like, we're going to do this. Be ready for it.
So they told us, right? They gave us a whole workout plan. Actually, if anybody out there wants it, I still have it in an email. All right. But it gave you a whole workout plan and what to do and all the movements and everything. And it told you what the conditioning test was. So it allowed guys like me to prepare for it. Now, there's some guys, everybody kind of has their way they go about doing the off season where they may chill for a week or two and then they'll turn up or ramp it up. But me personally, it was my first opportunity, and I said, and it may be my only opportunity, and it was at least at the NFL level. So I wanted to be as prepared as possible for it.
Jauan Jennings, there's no guarantees if it's going to be a hold in. It's looking like it's not going to be a holdout. Reportedly, he will show up to camp, even though he has demanded a trade if he can't get a new contract. And as we've seen with all these second round picks signing, deadlines make deals. And so by next Tuesday, we might have a little bit of news and potentially some movement on a contract for Jauan Jennings. And who knows if that's just a redone 1 year, give him a little bit more this year to get him to free agency, feel better about it. If it's a long-term deal, if it's a couple years at it, if it's a full-on long-term contract for Jauan Jennings or nothing at all. I think it could be really any of those outcomes over the course of the next week or two. But right now, it's looking like it's shaping up to potentially be one of those hold-ins. And I think it was Matt Mayoko who said that that's probably the guess of what it might look like with him reporting to camp, but still unhappy, not wanting to put, potentially him get hurt before the season starts without that new contract that he really wants. So I don't expect the 49ers to entertain any trade offers for Jauan Jennings. We've covered that already. But what would a hold-in look like, and who benefits? Because Brandon Ayuk's not around either. So that means you're talking about your 6'5", 3 Ricky Pearsall is going to get a lot. Who gets the next reps after Ricky Pearsall if there's no Jauan Jennings or Brandon Ayuk?
And again, we'll see what Robinson's situation is, but the youngsters, and here's the tough thing. When you are a quarterback like Brock Purdy and you're a veteran, you want to be on the same page with all of your guys. And I watched a lot of quarterback on Netflix, and you listen to quarterbacks talk to their receivers. They are very, very, very specific with how they want to do certain things and what they're seeing. So some of the best of connections, right? The Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams, the Steve Young, Jerry Rice, or Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, the Marvin Harrison and Peyton Manning. All of these guys have such a great connection. And I think a lot of people think, it's a really good quarterback. It's a really good receiver. The receiver is really good at getting open. These guys know each other. they can see something and they're on the same exact page. And because that safety did this, I'm going to do this. We work it in practice. We work it in the offseason. We work it all the time. I know I can throw it blind. I expect him to be there. When you have a lot of young guys out there, they may not be on the same page as the quarterback. So now early in training camp, I wouldn't be surprised if the offense is a little clunky coming out and the defense is winning. Typically, defense comes out just better anyways, right? Like just offense, a lot more stuff that you have to install. It's a lot more difficult. Defense, cover 1, cover 2, cover 3. You'll have your palms and things like that. But it's a little bit more simpler. Guys just been doing those things. Offense, you got to be on the same page. And when you have the young guys out there, it's really good that they get those reps and get that opportunity with Brock Purdy, but it could probably be a little frustrating early on for a starting quarterback who is now a veteran and knows how things should look and where guys should be.
And according to reports, Ricky Pearsall has been working with Brock Purdy, and I don't know how much he's been working with everybody else. And there are very good reports on Brandon Ayuk. Could he be back sooner than later? We'll see about suspension for Demarcus Robinson as well, but that won't affect his ability to practice. That would just affect his ability to be available. So I would guess it's Pearsall, Demarcus Robinson, if there's no Jauan Jennings, as the first two guys. But I want to talk about a few more guys after that as well and get into the chat a little bit. Who are you excited to see in 49ers camp, rookie or otherwise? Next. I'm excited to see Cowing and the new 4th rounder, Jordan Watkins. I think that's probably the biggest opportunity. I think Isaiah Hodgins as well. And it'll be pretty telling if Isaiah Hodgins is getting some really key reps when training camp opens, Croc, whether Jauan Jennings is there or not, or if he's working in like behind Cowing, behind Jordan Watkins. And that'll be pretty telling what the coaching staff expects the roster and the depth chart to look like when the 49ers break camp and head toward the season. So that's always one of the biggest things to look for in training camp is how the reps are divided up and what the actual depth chart is going into things before any battles ensue. But man, Jacob Cowing and Jordan Watkins, the speed that those guys have, 4th round picks. So they're not like throwaway late round picks or anything. There's some expectations that these guys can be good and be NFL players. They're going to stick for a while. And so those are huge opportunities if there's more and more reps going their way that might not have gone their way if Brandon Ayuk was around, if Jauan Jennings does indeed hold in. So that'll be fascinating. Of course, seeing a healthy Ricky Pearsall, he kind of goes right in line with Alfred Collins. It's like, okay, missed a lot last year aside from the gunshot wound. You got to see this guy healthy so you can go earn that starting spot, because I mean, if he's banged up and Jauan Jennings starts to hold in, the Niners might have to cave and have no choice because they got to get their wide receiver group in and be ready for the season. So certainly a position group to watch for those wide receivers when camp gets going here. Is there
I love that you mentioned Pearsall, and Pearsall, very interesting. One thing I've noticed with him and listening to Kyle Shanahan talk about him, he's a guy who prepares like a pro. And that's huge. Or a guy that understands everything. And you talked about working with Purdy. I think that's huge as well. If those guys can develop a connection, we've seen a lot of 49er receivers have a pretty solid year 2 jump where they start to get it. The game starts to slow down. What Kyle's asking of him, they start to understand that more and more. Then you pair that with having a connection with your quarterback. That is huge for Ricky Pearsall. So the only thing left for him would be to make sure that his body is up to par and ready to really go through a rigorous offseason. This will be the longest stretch that he's ever had to play football. Like college it's not this long, like for going from training camp all the way through, especially a 17-game season. So now like your body's got to be prepared for that. And that's going to be a huge test for Ricky Pearsall.
Jay in the chat says, no Jauan Jennings, no BA, no Robinson equals no playoff berth. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, who the heck is going to catch passes for the 49ers if you're missing those 3 guys? I mean, we just talked about Ricky Pearsall. Now, here's the thing. You still have Ricky Pearsall. You still have George Kittle. And then Christian McCaffrey. We're assuming he's healthy throughout the whole year. That is 3 terrific pass catchers. That's still an all-pro pass catcher, along with a former first-round pick from last season and a former NFC Offensive Player of the Year. So that's still 3 really good weapons. But you're going to need some of these young guys to step up and really be able to play well. And that's the part. Expecting a lot out of rookies. I just can't do that, right? We talked about that on the defensive side of the ball. 49ers drafted Michael Williams and Alfred Collins and CJ West and Martin, and people are thinking, oh, defense. I'm like, these are young guys. Like, you can't expect them to hit the ground running and all of a sudden be the best version of themselves. And history shows it may only be one of those guys that hit the ground running and is what you want him to be. So with the receivers, it's the same thing. You want these young guys to be able to step in and play well right away. But I'm not expecting that. I'm hoping that guys can figure out some kind of role for themselves. But you're going to need Brandon Ayuk, Jauan Jennings, and Robinson. Like, you're going to need those guys.
Yeah, you're going to need some of those veteran guys eventually, even if, Robinson's suspended and Ayuk's not back until November 1st or whatever it is. You're going to make a deep run. You're going to need some of that. And hopefully the guys are up to it when those other guys are out. As Ian puts it, though, Kittle, CMC, Garendo, no shortage of offense. And don't forget, Croc, we talked about Jauan Jennings' 2023 stats. He was the 5th leading receiver on the team. They don't throw it to 5 guys. You only need 4 guys to throw it to. So as long as Kittle and Christian McCaffrey are healthy, you got 1 receiver. You only need 1 more guy because they only throw the ball to 4 people in the entire offense. Jauan Jennings was the 5th leading receiver, had 19 catches in 2023.
Yeah, that's wild. That's wild. I wonder if that's the lowest amount, in the season, like ever. Like, if that's the lowest ever, or I'd say in the last 25 years, is that the lowest amount of catches ever for the 5th leading pass catcher?
Yeah, like the gap between one player and the next was like 50 catches.
Yeah.
And it was like between, I think it was McCaffrey, it must have been McCaffrey's, had 69 receptions or something like that. And Jauan Jennings had 19. That's pretty wild.
I'm going to try to pull up like a random team, like the Chicago Bears, who maybe didn't have the most prolific offense. And I just want to know, what are their stats for their, like, just last year?
The Cowboys would be a good one last year, where like every target went to CeeDee Lamb, or the Raiders, where every target went to Brock Bowers or something like that. But even then, it would probably be a more softened tail on the graph.
Here we go. Cowboys receptions. The 5th leading guy, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 31 receptions.
Okay.
And then behind him, there's 27. Behind him, there's 26. So that just shows right there just how wild it is for the 5th guy for the 49ers to have 19 receptions.
And also a good example that the top 4 guys were healthy all year for the 49ers in 2023, because that has to happen too for them to get all the stats all year long. Papa J says CJ West. That's one I'm really excited to see. I think CJ West could make some waves early and just be stout, and I think that's one thing he's going to be good at right away. And so I'm excited for CJ West for sure. That's a really good one. Here's a good one. The old backup versus potentially starting center. 49ers Gang 916 says, I want to see a competition with Brendel and Hennessy. I wonder how many positions, Croc, are really, like, let's say Hennessy comes in and looks amazing. Can he even win the job? Or is it like, Brendel's the starter, he makes the calls? Like, how many positions are up for grabs if the backup guy starting in camp takes it away? Because I bet there's some positions, even if the guy looks a little bit better, that's not enough. It would have to be, you have to be a lot better, right?
Yeah, especially with the 49. Remember, one of the things I talked about yesterday, I believe, seeing some continuity with the offensive line. I want to see those guys grow together, and I'm pretty sure Kyle Shanahan wants that as well. Like, I want to see Brendel and all these guys. Let me see them play together for an entire offseason or training camp. Excuse me.
This is a good question. Who has a better season, Deebo or Pearsall? Deebo now with the Washington Commanders. Well, look, they've got a holdout situation as well in Washington. So Deebo and Pearsall might both be wide receiver ones for their respective teams if these contract negotiations get ugly, because Terry McLaurin is even more unhappy than Jauan Jennings. And I don't think is showing up to camp. He's like a full-fledged holdout right now. And so Deebo might be force-fed the football by Jaden Daniels over there in Washington.
We poked a little fun at Deebo Samuel with the video, and everybody's like, "Oh, look at Deebo, look at him working out." But I will say he has been working hard. I've been watching him with receiver trainer, route guide, and he's looking better. He still looks like Deebo. Like he's. I think he's just gonna be a thicker guy, and he came into the league thick. He's thicker now, but I think he's moving well. He looks like he'll be prepared. I still would challenge him and tell him, like, because everybody has the opportunity to do it, but like, Deebo, you're moving well, looking light on your feet a little bit. But man, if you lost 10 more pounds, how much better could you move? Like, how much better? Like, everything that you're doing and what it looks like, if you were just about 10 pounds lighter, how much better would that look?
If McLaurin signs, I'll say Pearsall. I think Pearsall has an opportunity to be potentially the guy this season for the 49ers.
Well, Deebo's the number 2 guy.
Yeah. And the
thing with Deebo is
at worst, really, right? And
yeah, and the thing with Deebo is his run after catch, depending on like the shape he's in, could just take off. So that would kind of put him in a different playing field than Pearsall. Because we've seen him sometimes where he looks like chunky, but he's just running past guys once he has the ball in his hands. So like, he just always has that in his back pocket.
He's had some special bursts. So you didn't see it as much in his later years with the 49ers as you did like in 2021. Some of those was like his magic with him getting the corner and the way he would just burst. You think, man, they might have him here. It's like, nope, they don't have him. Zach Ertz, Brian Robinson, Austin Eckler, they've got some weapons to spread the ball around in Washington as well. So yeah, I don't think he's going to be a target hog necessarily. They just want him to be the Vinny the Microwave Johnson, right? The heat up when they need a little offense. Great nickname, all-time nickname. Let's finish here with Gammon. Says, is it a bad look for our offensive line can hold up against the young defensive line in practice, or would you prefer to see the D-line eat? I think it's probably a bad sign if the veteran offensive line is getting eaten up by a bunch of young rookie defensive linemen. So I think I would expect the defensive lineman to have a little bit of trouble early. And if not, they might say more bad about the offensive line than great about the defensive line. But I mean, you drafted a guy 11 overall, you want him to look the part right away, but you might see a lot of Trent Williams in practice too.
Man, I think that's always the tough thing, especially from the fan base, right? They're going to be watching, and if they're looking out there and they're seeing their offensive line just get dominated by some young defensive linemen, what do you think the conversation is going to be coming out of camp? I mean, the fans don't want to see that. Have you noticed, like when a player picks a pass off, which should be good, like, oh man, our defense is making the play. But let there be a bomb over the top of the defense. Everybody wants this great defense, but when you see your offense making these plays, they're cheering. Yeah, let's go.
They had that in the past, right? Was it 2019 where 2020? One of those seasons in training camp was like the offense can't move the ball because the defense is too good.
Yeah, I think I remember saying that. Like maybe the defense is good. I think it was 2019.
Yeah. All right, we got to get out of here. Appreciate everybody joining us on this live episode. Nice to know all the rookies are now in camp, getting ready, getting conditioned, and getting ready for those veterans to show up for 49ers training camp next week. Of course, we'll have it covered for you every step of the way throughout camp, preseason, into the regular season right here on Locked On 49ers. So make sure you say hi on YouTube in the comments, subscribe while you're there, and Croc and I back next week right here. Locked On 49ers.